No monkeying around. Monkeying.
This is why Clank is the best character in the series. Ratchet & Clank 3 is, to this day, one of my favourite games of all time. It got me through my school years by allowing me to de-stress at the end of each day, solidified my love for the series, and made me into a massive Insomniac fan. I was already very much into the games after the original and going commando, but Ratchet 3 just hit different. It was the first in the series that was solely mine as opposed to Ratchet 1 and 2. Ratchet 1 was shared between my brother and me, while Ratchet 2 was mainly his. I loved them, but I didn't play them as much as Ratchet 3. So today, I'm going to look at why this game is as good as it is. The story, the mechanics, challenge mode, as much as I can fit into the video without making it too long. But Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal isn't perfect. It's gained a more cynical reputation over the past 8 years for perfectly legitimate reasons, and I'm not going to shy away from them. I'm going to tackle them head on and see if this game is as good as I remember it. Let's begin. Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, or Ratchet & Clank 3 in Europe, first released on the 2nd of November 2004, about a year after going commando. If you've played the previous games, you'll know that Ratchet & Clank are intergalactic heroes that have saved the Solana and Bogon galaxies from planet-destroying Chairman Drek and disgraced superhero Captain Qwark respectively. Here, they're taking a well-earned break in their Megapolis apartment, playing a game of galactic chess, when a hit new show appears on TV.
Your luck is extraordinary, sir. But do you lose as gracefully as you will?
I would not know, Maximilian. I never lose.
There is a first time for everything. Agent Clank!
Yeah, that's right, Clank is James Bond now, and I couldn't be happier. What an amazing twist for our little robot buddy. Everything about this cutscene is amazing. And look, it's Ratchet. He plays Secret Agent Clank's chauffeur, Jeeves. Not a very original name for a chauffeur, but that's probably the point. After Ratchet changes the channel, they watch a broadcast from the Solana Galaxy showing that Veldin, Ratchet's home planet, is under attack from a race of alien monstrosities called the Tyrannoids. Even worse, they're commanded by supervillain Dr Nefarious, who has resurfaced after years of hiding in the shadows. Obviously, Ratchet wants to go back to Solana and save his home. Despite Clank's objections, the two of them use an untested gravimetric warp drive to head back as quickly as possible. The story makes a big deal out of this gravimetric warp drive, allowing him to go back to the Solana Galaxy, but later in the story, we'll learn that Hollowstar Studios, where Secret Agent Clank is filmed, is actually in Solana, so they must have travelled between there and Bogon many times already. That always confused me, but my recent playthrough of Going Commando reminded me that in the first cutscene, they say that travel between the two galaxies takes 2 weeks, so Ratchet's gravimetric warp drive must be something he was developing to make the journey much quicker. Anyway, once they reach Veldin, they encounter the Galactic Rangers, a defense force made up of cowardly robots. They immediately assume Ratchet is their new sergeant and allow him to take charge. After beating back the Tyrannoid army, Ratchet and Clank are contacted by the President, who recognizes them as Secret Agent Clank and his loyal chauffeur.
Is that Secret Agent Clank?
Greetings, sir. We are here to help.
Well, this is an honor, and I see you brought your chauffeur along.
What? No. Hold on a second, sir.
Agent Clank, we must stop Dr Nefarious.
This is a bit of a running gag, but one that never gets old. Also, for some reason, the President is based on Bill Clinton. No idea why, but it's a great impression. He says that they're trying to track down someone who fought Dr Nefarious in the past and is vital to the war effort, but they've gone into hiding. He believes they might be on planet Florana, which leads to one of the best cutscenes in the game.
I seen him run right through our camping site. He was buck naked, screaming and holding a banana. Or maybe it weren't a banana. It could be.
One of nature's mysteries.
Ratchet and Clank head to Florana and discover that, shock horror, the person they're looking for is none other than Captain Qwark.
Ratchet, we have company.
Where?
Behind you.
Where?
Behind you.
Very funny. You having a good time?
Who's gone a bit insane since last time and has lost all of his memories. He even forces Ratchet and Clank to walk the path of death. They defeat him in battle and bring him back to the Starship Phoenix, pride of the Galactic Fleet, which is commanded by Captain Sasha Fyronix. Fyronix, by the way, is such a cool name. She's actually the President's daughter, which makes this interaction pretty awkward.
A VG-9000?
Of course. With a Mavix Fireball Pro controller, VR headset, and a zero-G dance pad attachment.
Will you marry me?
Well, you've obviously had an exhausting trip.
While they try to figure out a way to bring back Qwark's memories, Marcadia, the capital of Solana, is invaded by the Tyrannoids. We also get the first cutscene featuring Dr Nefarious and his butler, Lawrence.
Robotic citizens of the Solana Galaxy, the hour of your liberation is at hand!
long have we robots suffered under the bigotry, the stupidity, the squishiness and foul stench of organic life forms? Soon, all robots will bask in the liberty and equality of my benevolent, iron-fisted rule. And as for you filthy organic life forms, you can look forward to being disintegrated. That's all for now.
Nefarious is, in my opinion, the best villain in the series. He's a true supervillain, styled more like a parody of Marvel and DC, and he's incredibly funny, along with his butler. Lawrence clearly hates his guts, and is always willing to get in a sneaky jab or two.
If anyone can beat a moron at his own game, it's you, sir.
But hey, it pays the bills, I guess. Also, I don't know when I have another chance to mention this, but Nefarious has an interesting quirk where whenever he gets super frustrated, usually because of Qwark, he glitches out and a soap opera called Lance and Janice plays through his head.
Who is responsible for this outrage?
I believe it was a Captain Qwark or something.
Oh, Janice, you'll always be the love of my life.
You really should have that looked at.
Nefarious's plan is to eliminate all organic life in the Solana Galaxy, which he calls squishies. Basically, he's a robot supremacist. It's a clear goal, one that's easy to understand, and it gives the story a stronger foundation to work from, as opposed to going commando, which, while good, was admittedly a bit messy. Ratchet and Clank help the Galactic Rangers fight back on Marcadia and encounter Big Al, the guy who fitted Clank with a helipack in Ratchet 1. He's been using the planet's defense network to play a Captain Qwark vid comic, which is a side-scrolling video game level that, in this case, tells a ridiculously over-exaggerated story of how he fought off a bunch of robotic pirate ghosts. Playing this level back on the Phoenix in front of Qwark causes all of his memories to come back, and after Ratchet is sent to Annihilation Nation, a combat arena / death course venue, to win something called the Tiragais, Sasha lets him know that the President has put Qwark in charge of the fight against Nefarious, and just like that, Qwark is back to his prideful, selfish ways, having learned absolutely nothing from his past defeats. This might just come back to bite him. What I really love about Up Your Arsenal's narrative is the fact that it has returning characters from the first game. There's Big Al, who we saw earlier, Helga, the robot who gave Ratchet his swing shot, and Skid McMarx, famous hoverboard racer. They all make up part of Qwark's new Q-Force, along with Scrunch the Monkey, the friend he made on Florana, Captain Sasha, and of course, Ratchet and Clank. I love the fact that Al, Helga and Skid are here, and they're given much more screen time than before. Skid in particular is my favourite of the bunch. He's so funny, and he's always willing to help, even if it gets him into trouble. But the true star of the story is Captain Qwark, played wonderfully by the late Jim Ward. He has a much more heartfelt character arc, which I'll talk about later, but it permanently changes his personality for the rest of the series. The writing here is phenomenal, and I think the reason for that is because Insomniac hired a dedicated writer. On the first game in Going Commando, the developers themselves wrote the story, but here they decided to hire Brad Santos to lead the narrative development. Some Insomniacs were nervous at first that he wouldn't keep the same style of humour, but that was obviously not the case.
Hey, lucky for you dudes, I brought this. Stand back, bro. I'm like a trained professional and stuff. Don't try this at home. Oh man, it's busted. Oh wait, never mind.
Brad Santos wove a tightly paced, surprisingly emotional tale into the Ratchet and Clank universe and formed the well that all future stories in the series would draw from. But it wasn't just him. Although Brad Santos was a dedicated writer, the script was passed around to interested developers who could then suggest edits and changes, so it was still very much a collaborative process. I'll talk more about the story later, but for now I want to move on to the gameplay. The controls are similar to Going Commando, but the most immediate difference is in how snappy they are. The default camera movement is much faster than in Ratchet 2, and there seems to be less input lag, but I can't really verify that for certain. Either way, it feels like a smoother, more modern experience. There's also a new control scheme, Lock Strafe mode, which makes combat easier because you can aim up and down without going into first person mode. It also allows you to strafe without holding down the L2 and R2 buttons. However, I still prefer the default third person mode because it's just what I'm used to. And sometimes, the way that the camera changes from third person to lock strafe and vice versa when, for example, going in and out of the Tiragais can be quite jarring. First person mode is also here right from the beginning, whereas before it had to be unlocked in the specials menu. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's cool that it's there. When you get your hands on your first weapon, the Shock Blaster, given to you by a Galactic Ranger, you'll notice that it says V1 in the top left corner. That's because weapons don't upgrade once like in Going Commando, but 4 times to reach a maximum of V5. When they hit V5, they transform into a new, more powerful version version. So for example, the Shock Blaster turns into the Shock Cannon, which can build up charge by holding the fire button and then unleash a ray of death. It's awesome, but it does take up 10 rounds of ammo, so you got to be careful with it. While we're on the subject of weapons, you can't buy mods from Slincognito anymore, but they do automatically apply to weapons when leveling up. For example, some gain a lock-on mod at V3, or acid damage, or electric damage, or fire damage, etc. I like this more than buying mods manually, but it does mean that titanium bolts, this game's version of platinum and gold bolts, don't really do anything useful. They unlock skins now instead, which is okay I guess, but it's not something I was particularly interested in for this playthrough. Speaking of collectibles, this game has hidden trophies which are purely cosmetic, but they do unlock a certain door to a certain location if you get all 15 of them. I won't spoil what that door or location is. Skill points and cheats are back, by the way. They're the same as they always were. Okay, I'll be honest, I don't really go out of my way to earn skill points because they don't interest me as much as the more tangible collectibles, but I know they're a big deal to lots of other Ratchet & Clank fans. I do think it's cool that they were essentially achievements before modern achievements existed though. By the way, back to experience points, you can still upgrade Ratchet's health, which is now numbered and goes all the way up to 200 HP. One thing I love about this series is how Ratchet & Clank keep most of their upgrades from previous games, and this time is no different. Clank still has the Helipack, Thruster Pack and Hydro Pack. You'll only use the Hydro Pack once in the entire game, but still it's nice to have and it gives the player a great sense of immersion and continuity. A weird thing I noticed though, all the way back in 2004, is that Ratchet's double jump is now just as high as a high jump using Clank's Helipack or Thruster Pack. That means there's no use for the high jump at all. I still use it every now and then for old time's sake, but it's strange that they made it obsolete. I'm not that bothered by it, but it's just always been a bit of a quirk. The lockpick gadget in Up Your Arsenal is the Hacker. You have to destroy red defense programs and collect enough green code snippets to move on. Some of them can last a bit too long in my opinion, but I've played this minigame so many times that I kind of go into a flow state. As a result, I've kind of grown to enjoy it more than some of the other gadgets in the series. I do prefer the Trespasser from Ratchet 1 out of all the lockpicking gadgets, but the Hacker is my second favourite. The quick select menu now has 2 pages instead of 1, which allows for faster access to more weapons. This is very handy because Ratchet 3 has a lot of useful weapons. One of my favourites is the Rift Inducer, which is a gun that shoots out mini black holes to suck up enemies. When it upgrades to the Rift Ripper, these black holes also shoot out electricity. Another great weapon is the Annihilator, which is a basic rocket launcher, sure, but that's why it's so good. The explosions are incredibly satisfying. The Nitro Launcher is this game's version of the Gravity Bomb from Going Commando, so it's useful for crowds. And then there's the Plasma Whip. I never used to be that enamoured with it because I thought, why would I want another melee weapon when I have the wrench? But I've grown to like its wider reach. It's also just awesome in concept. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to run around with a flaming whip? But I know what you're thinking. Is there a new Rhino? Why, yes there is. It's called the Rhino 3, or the Rye 3No, and it's just as powerful as past versions. However, this one disintegrates enemies after upgrading it to V2, and at V5 it becomes an even more powerful weapon. I'll let you discover that on your own though. You can still use Ratchet's Omni Wrench to defeat enemies of course, which is handy for these little guys. It also turns bolt cranks, but this time you only have to hold the analog stick in one direction instead of moving it in a circle. It's a surprisingly good quality of life feature. Speaking of quality of life features, the swing shot is now merged with the dynamo from Going Commando and automatically deploys when you get close enough to a target. This is great because it no longer has to take up a spot in the quick select and you don't have to go into the gadgets menu either. The armor magnetizer and box breaker are also merged into one item, the bolt grabber V2. It's one of the most satisfying things in the game. Smash Ratchet's wrench on the ground and everything around him will shatter, causing bolts to burst forth and magnetize towards him. Trust me, you want this item. You might also want to visit the arena, and yes, I said arena, singular. Unlike Going Commando, there's only one in the game. However, you do visit it twice as part of the story. It has classic arena combat, which is great, although I do miss the cage matches from Going Commando. But new to Up Your Arsenal are death courses, which are high intensity obstacle courses across fire and dodgy platforms. Enemies will also try to stop you at every turn. The Path of Death on Florana is a tutorial for this feature, and I like it. It's nice that Up Your Arsenal still has dedicated platforming sections, despite being a much more combat focused game overall. You might also be noticing a trend here with merging certain mechanics together. Insomniac seems to have focused on trimming the fat, making it so the game moves at a brisker pace. Why not combine the swing shot and dynamo? Why not combine the box breaker and armor magnetizer? And why do we need 2 separate arenas when you can combine them into one? That same logic is also applied to the main levels. Only a few planets have branching paths like previous games. The others progress in a linear fashion, despite having a similar amount of variety. Instead of going down one path for a bit bit of platforming and another path for combat, both of them will be combined into a single path, with each section seamlessly flowing into the next. For example, on Marcadia, you start with a standard combat and exploration section, move into new battle missions that I'll talk about later, and then into a puzzle section focused around the new refractor gadget, which is a device that diverts laser beams, including those that are shot by enemies. It has split the community a bit because even though it better serves the story and pacing, it does remove the feeling of exploration that the first two games excelled at. For me, it's like choosing between a bar of dairy milk or Galaxy. Hashtag not sponsored. Sure, I could say that one is better than the other, but next week I might feel the opposite. That's why I don't really choose to see Up Your Arsenal as a replacement for Going Commando, but rather I think they complement each other. And the same goes for Ratchet 1. That game has more involved and more traditional platforming, which Going Commando reduced and is further reduced in Up Your Arsenal. Each game has their own strengths and weaknesses that serve different purposes. Here, the strengths are combat, story, and pacing. That's why whenever someone does a poll asking for people's favourite Ratchet and Clank game, it's always so evenly split. But let's switch over to Clank now, because he does still have his own sections. This time, they're more themed around being a secret agent, thanks to the fact that he's now a big shot star. For some reason, he's been given a banana gun that can send Scrunch the monkey to wherever the banana lands, which is helpful for holding down buttons. There are also gadget bots returning from previous games, but here they're less impactful than they were before. I do like these sections overall, particularly because of the secret agent vibe. There's two awesome ones that I'm going to talk about later. Right, let's move on to battle missions. This is a major new feature of Ratchet 3 that was implemented because of the multiplayer mode. Yeah, that's right, Up Your Arsenal had online and split-screen multiplayer. It was a request from Sony, but Insomniac had already been thinking about adding multiplayer to the series because they thought it would be a good fit. In Sony's eyes, this would be a great example to people of how the PS2's online functionality could work. And you know what? I think it succeeded. I didn't really play it back then, but it had three main modes: Siege, Capture the Flag, and Deathmatch. Pretty explanatory if you know how they work in other games. I think the multiplayer was well liked by those who played it, and it was clearly popular enough to prompt Insomniac to do it again in the next game, Ratchet Deadlocked. The multiplayer mode was actually worked on by a different team to the one developing the single player mode, but the single player team must have thought it'd be a cool idea to use some of the multiplayer maps and craft a new experience around them. Battle missions are the end result. Because the story is about a galactic war against Dr Nefarious and his Tyrannoid army, Ratchet and Clank can take part in combat-oriented missions to aid the Galactic Rangers in defeating them. Each battle campaign has around 4 or 5 missions that allow our heroes to explore the battlefield and complete certain objectives. These objectives could be defending the Rangers, using a turret to destroy incoming dropships, piloting the new hovership to defeat waves of enemies, or laying siege to enemy bases. These missions are really cool in concept and in execution because they allow you to let loose with your arsenal of weapons, and the Galactic Rangers are always hilarious and fun to listen to.
Have any idea how we're supposed to shut down this force field? H26, why don't you try sticking your finger in the main power transformer? Are you sure that's a good idea, sir? This thing looks pretty dangerous. Suck it up, 26. You got nothing to worry about. I got special training wheel electronic thingamajiggies. Okay, here goes. H26, come back.
H26 has been vaporized, sir. But the force field has been deactivated.
All right. That trooper deserves a medal.
But nowadays, just knowing that they're exactly the same maps used in multiplayer is a bit immersion breaking, even though it was a smart move in terms of development optimization. Take Metropolis here. You can see these magnetic walls that are able to be walked on with the gravity boots in multiplayer, but you can't reach them in single player. It feels weird. Most battle missions take place in addition to normal gameplay on the same planets, and some are optional, but there are 2 planets in the game that only feature battle missions and nothing else. These are Rilgar and Iridia, which are returning planets from the first game. Even as a kid, I remember being disappointed that I couldn't explore Blackwater City in the same way that I could in the first game. Same with Outpost X12 on Iridia. Blackwater City's map has these circular platforms that are just there, serving no purpose, which I assume is because they do serve a purpose in multiplayer. You can't even ignore these levels because they reward you with important gadgets that you'll need to finish the story. So overall, the battle missions are fun, but a bit immersion breaking, which is a shame. Another problem people have with Up Your Arsenal is the lack of space combat or racing. They did plan to have racing at first, and even partly developed a track you can find in the Insomniac Museum, which yes, the Insomniac Museum does return, but it didn't make it into the final game. I think space combat was briefly considered, but not for long. It is a funny thing though, you can still customize your ship. They're only cosmetic options, but still, it's cool that you can switch things up, because you'll be looking at the ship quite a bit during loading transitions. By the way, I don't think I mentioned them in my previous videos on Ratchet 1 and 2, but the transitions between planets are some of the smartest and most immersive ways I've seen loading screens disguised. Really reminds me of Spyro. Oh, and by the way, if you want to access the Insomniac Museum, head to Metropolis at 3 AM. There's a hidden teleporter you can find. I won't spoil the exact location because where's the fun in that, but just know that it's there. Now, I said the game has no racing, but it does still allow you to drive a vehicle called a turbo slider in battlefields. The first time is here on Tyrannosis, where the turret is operated by Scrunch the Monkey. He's a surprisingly good shot. Add to that the fact that you can fly a hover ship, and this game does have a similar amount of vehicle gameplay to Ratchet 1 and 2. It's just that you don't get to take part in races or fly in space. Okay, remember those crystal gathering planets from Going Commando? There's something similar here, but it's only on one planet, Aquatos. It's not a wide open area, but instead a sewer system infested with amoeboids. Lovely. The plumber is back.
Whoa, deja vu.
Ow! Oh, it's you two again. Right on schedule.
And he's asked Ratchet and Clank to bring him enough sewer crystals so that he can make something nice for the missus. What are sewer crystals? Let's not talk about it. He'll pay you handsomely for each one, so it's worth doing if you're struggling for bolts, but it's a bit monotonous. Hey, at least there aren't any Yetis. You will need the gravity boost to fully complete the area though. Oh, and if you want my advice, use the Rift Ripper to suck up hordes of amoeboids. It's so satisfying. But this game is missing something major: grind rails. I've noticed it ever since I was a kid, and it's always disappointed me. I love the grind rails in Ratchet 1 and 2, and spoiler alert, they appear in Ratchet Deadlocked as well, so this game is the odd one out. Ah well, you can't have everything I suppose. The same goes for what I like to call NPC bolt gates, but while these were nostalgically endearing in Ratchet 1 and 2, I don't mind that they're gone. Now there's nothing to slow you down, and you can spend all your bolts on weapons, armor, and ammo. But even though Up Your Arsenal is missing some features, it also introduces new ones. First of all, there's now a hub area you can constantly return to during the story. The Starship Phoenix is a bit primitive now compared to modern hubs, but it has so many cool features. The first is a dedicated armor vendor. Instead of placing them on 4 planets like Going Commando, the only armor vendor is here on the Phoenix. You can upgrade all the way to the Infernox armor, which looks awesome, but it does cover Ratchet's face permanently like the Carbonox armor, so I'm always hesitant to buy it. Next is the Gadgetron weapons vendor. This special one allows you to test out weapons in a VR arena before you buy them, which is awesome, and for some reason it never returned in future games. It also allows you to gain a discount if you have saved data from Ratchet 1 on your memory card. In that original game, the Gadgetron CEO said that all employees get a discount after 2 years. Well, guess how many years it's been since then? Such a cool detail. I should also mention that Slim Cognito is back, this time as a vendor that sells Megacorp weapons.
Well, if it ain't two of my best customers.
Slim Cognito? What are you doing down here?
I had a small run-in with the cops concerning a suck cannon upgrade that was mistakenly sold to a minor. I swear the kid looked 18.
This means you can get the mini turret glove, lava gun, bouncer, plasma coil, and shield charger, and even better, if you have a Going Commando save file where you bought those weapons, they're free to purchase in Up Your Arsenal. The lava gun has even been changed for the better. In the previous game, upgrading it turned it into the meteor gun that shot volcanic rocks. It meant that you couldn't spray lava in the same way anymore, which drastically reduced its usefulness. Here, the lava gun upgrades to the liquid nitrogen gun that keeps the same gooey stream, but it also freezes enemies and shatters them. It's a fantastic change, and it's now one of my favourite weapons in the game. Back on the Phoenix, there's a VR deck that allows you to train against test dummies in a virtual arena, awarding you with bolts if you succeed, and even a titanium bolt if you can beat all of the missions. By taking this transport to the bridge, you can find all members of the Q-Force talking to each other. They use completely random lines of dialogue in different combinations, leading to some pretty hilarious interactions.
Skid, can you hear me?
You talking to me?
Plot a course for Sector Alpha 5.
Not gonna happen, dude.
It really enhances the immersion, the feeling that you're part of something bigger, you know? But here's the best part. Remember those Captain Qwark vid comics I mentioned earlier? There are 5 of them in the game, all playable with amazing cutscenes and narration serving as the intro and outro of each one. You might think that side-scrolling levels in a Ratchet and Clank game would feel out of place or maybe a bit of a barrier, but they're not, at least in my opinion. I love these levels. They're not too tricky and they feature new weapons every time. Also, if you manage to collect all 100 tokens, you gain a titanium bolt. You can even upgrade Qwark's health permanently by collecting these green tokens. There's 1 per level and they carry over to other levels. And here's a really cool detail. At one point in the story, Big Al casually mentions that if you input a certain code, it will give Qwark a tutu. If you go into a level and input that code, well, would you look at that? He is in a tutu. So overall, the Starship Phoenix is pretty awesome. One of this game's highlights, and it's a shame that it's been a rarely returning feature. Now, there's one more new feature I want to talk about. During this game's development, Insomniac wanted to add some new crate types, so they came up with the Jackpot Crate and the Inferno Crate. The Jackpot Crate multiplies all bolt pickups by 2 for a limited time, while the Inferno Crate puts Ratchet in the Infernox armor, gives him 2 flaming wrenches, and makes him deal one-hit KOs to every enemy. They're really cool, and they're also spaced out appropriately so they don't feel too overpowered. I mean, they do feel a bit arcadey, and I have no idea how they work in universe, but hey, it's a video game, what are you gonna do? This feature isn't new, but spherical worlds are back, following in the footsteps of Going Commando. One of them features the refractor gadget, where you need to link up all the satellites to open a force field. I love the spherical effect, especially when you press the select button to bring up the map and it zooms out to show the entire world. Right, let's talk about challenge mode. It's back, and like Going Commando, there's a bolt multiplier that can go all the way up to 20 times. If you break a jackpot crate, that number can go up to 40 times, which is mind-blowing. You can also buy mega weapons, which are similar to Going Commando in that they're just more powerful versions of previous weapons, but you definitely want that because challenge mode enemies are much beefier than they are in the first playthrough. Challenge mode is just awesome, and I think it's the definitive way to play through this game. Now, I can't make a Ratchet & Clank video without talking about the soundtrack. In Up Your Arsenal, it's as amazing as ever. This time, it's even more action-packed and are some of my favourite tracks in the series. David Bergeau really went for it this time. Even the theme of the Starship Phoenix is incredible, which is good because you'll be spending so much time there. Bergeau's impact on the Ratchet & Clank series can't be overstated. So much of the game's atmosphere comes in large part from his music, and I'm glad to say it continues in future entries, all the way up to Quest for Booty. What an absolute legend this guy is. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the story, but before that I'm going to sum up my thoughts on the game design by saying that I think it's both better and worse than Ratchet 1 and 2. Like I said before, I can't really choose between them. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses to the point where they complement each other. In Up Your Arsenal's case, the strengths are definitely in its combat and story, with a brisker pace that might make you go just one more level before you turn it off for the night. If you want my honest recommendation, play the whole PS2 trilogy, you really can't go wrong. But alright, here's where spoilers start, so if you want to hop off now, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for watching. Here we go. When we left off, Captain Qwark had created the Q-Force to fight against Dr Nefarious. The first 2 schemes he comes up with are delivered as funny slideshows consisting of amateur drawings which are so iconic that they turned up in a future game as well. Both schemes involve Ratchet and Clank doing all the work while everyone else heads to the cafeteria.
It's Meatloaf Day!
You know, given how good Ratchet and Clank are at their jobs, this might have actually been a good decision by Qwark. On Aquatos, Skid McMarks turns up to help anyway because he's just a great guy. He also joins an investigation on the Obani moons where he chooses to stay behind because he needs to figure out how a crowbar works. I can't help but smile every time he's on screen. Seriously, he's one of the best characters in the entire franchise. By the way, Aquatos not only has the first Clank section in the game, but also the first Tiragai section where Ratchet will need to play a simple timed minigame to speak in Tyrannese and convince these little guys to open each force field. You swap between Clank and Ratchet seamlessly, and then there's this lovely cutscene when Ratchet reaches Nefarious's office. Clank is waiting there even though he was supposed to meet Ratchet by the ship just because he wants to help. You can tell these two have been through so much since the beginning of the first game that they have such an unbreakable bond now. This is also where we find out that Nefarious is the biggest Secret Agent Clank fan in the universe. I mean, who can blame him? As we find out during the story though, Nefarious is like the president and that he thinks Clank is Secret Agent Clank.
It is an honor to finally make your acquaintance. I have been following your exploits ever since your first mission, when you defeated the mind-stealing snot beasts from Dimension X.
I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Secret Agent Clank is merely a fictional character I play on the horror video.
Lies! Squishy lies!
Oh, Len, I can't. It's not right. You're my cousin's uncle's son.
Lies!
At some point, after raiding the Tyrannoid home planet and defeating the Mama Tyrannoid, our heroes discover that Courtney Gears, a big celebrity singer and no relation to Britney Spears, is working for Dr Nefarious.
And what do I see? Robots going crazy across the galaxy. Can't stand organics, they're soft and squishy. The time is now, where robots must be free. You wanna be free? Then shout with me, yeah! This goes out to all you robots across the galaxy. It's time for you and me to rise up and strike back. Don't stop until we dominate. Won't you feel great when we exterminate all organic life?
Miss Gears may be in league with Dr. Nefarious.
Yeah, who knew? She always seems so sweet and innocent in her videos. Well, except for that one with the... You know...
So they win another match at Annihilation Nation in order to meet her. Clank manages to persuade her to speak to him about Nefarious at Hollow-Star Studios after he's finished filming the next episode of Secret Agent Clank. So at Hollow-Star Studios, we actually control Clank while he films the next episode, and this is such a fantastic sequence. It involves fighting ninja robots, a chase sequence across traffic, and Giant Clank fighting a kaiju, the terror of Talos. No idea where Hollow-Star Studios got the transformation device that Clank needs to turn into Giant Clank, and we don't even see it on screen, but hey, I guess they have enough money to buy one. After this, Courtney Gears meets Clank, but she zaps him unconscious, capturing him for Dr. Nefarious. Tyrannoids then raid the studio, which Ratchet has to fight past. Dr. Nefarious replaces Clank with an imposter called Clunk, who returns to Ratchet and travels with him until a later point in the game. Before leaving Hollow-Star Studios, Skid contacts Ratchet and Clunk, saying that Courtney Gears has arrived at his location. He's then captured because he asked for her autograph, prompting Ratchet and Clunk to go rescue him. Unfortunately, when they get there, he's already been turned into a robot, which is horrifying. Seeing this as a kid was pretty shocking, but don't worry, he's back to normal by the end of the story. Still, it shows how ruthless Courtney Gears is. Ratchet fights her with a surprisingly catchy tune playing in the background, and he eventually beats her. Later on, Ratchet, Clunk, Qwark, and Scrunch secretly board Nefarious' ship that's docked at a spaceport.
I thought we agreed to put that jungle business behind us. It was mating season. How could I have known she was your sister? How long have you two been standing there?
Too long.
Except that it isn't a secret because Nefarious planned it all along. He sets the ship to self-destruct, but Qwark stays behind because he spotted something important that might be useful. Ratchet wants to stay until Qwark returns to the ship they rode in on, but Clunk callously chooses to fly away before the ship explodes. Captain Qwark, unfortunately, is no more. They have a funeral service for him and try to move on.
Captain Qwark had so many, wonderful qualities, I just don't know where to begin.
Such as?
Oh, okay. He was really tall, and he had a unique fashion sense, and he had a really big chin with kind of a sort of a, well, you know, a butt shape. Well, you know, I think I've droned on long enough.
But Nefarious doesn't give them much time to breathe. He unleashes his army on the planet Qwark, home to the city of Metropolis. This level is absolutely amazing. The music is incredible, the visuals are great, and it's so good to be back on Qwark, just from a nostalgic perspective. Ratchet and Clunk push back the horde of Tyrannoids, but find out that Nefarious has activated his super weapon, the Bio-Obliterator.
Behold the final chapter of this galaxy's destiny. The Age of Robots! You are my robot lover. Making my spark plugs go zap, zap, zap with your love. Lawrence!
Oh, dear, that was your audition for Galactic Idol, wasn't it? My mistake, sir. Dreadfully sorry. By all means, sir. Carry on.
The Bio-Obliterator turns any organic lifeform into a robot and makes him subservient to Nefarious. He first uses it on his organic Tyrannoid army, and from this point on, every single Tyrannoid in the game will be robotic, even if you visit previous planets. That's an awesome detail. By the way, after this attack on Metropolis, the news broadcast says that Bio-Obliterators, plural, attacked Metropolis, and the devices, plural, have now disappeared.
Just hours ago, Bio-Obliterators devastated Metropolis. The devices have since disappeared and their current location is unknown.
But throughout the rest of the game, there's only one Bio-Obliterator referenced at a time. It's a bit of an inconsistency, but one that I could easily explain by saying that the news are just over-exaggerated for effect, as news stations tend to do. Anyway, Ratchet confronts Nefarious, realizing that he's holding the real Clank hostage.
Look, Clank, it's Dr. Nefarious, and that butler guy, and they've got Clank. They're, holding you prisoner. How about that? I guess I should be feeling pretty stupid right now. I don't suppose there's any chance he's the evil Clank. Yeah, didn't think so.
The penny drops, finally, and Ratchet has to fight Giant Clunk to rescue his buddy. After reuniting and desperate to find out what Qwark had gone after on Nefarious' ship, they investigate the wreckage that had fallen to the planet below. They find out that Qwark actually survived, pretending to be, well, I'll just show you.
Supernova taxi.
I need a cab to come get me right away.
Whoa, this must be my lucky day. So where can I pick you up, sweet cheeks?
I'm on planet Zeldrin. Just look for the gigantic wrecked Star Cruiser. You can't miss it.
Wrecked Star Cruiser, huh? Yeah, you sound like a girl who knows how to party. What say you and me go to the cyber disco later on?
Watch it, buddy. I mean, don't get fresh with me.
Well, sorry, lady. I couldn't help myself. I mean, a woman like you in a dress like that.
Oh, this is something I threw together.
They also find a data disk that Qwark must have found on Nefarious' ship. They give it to Big Al to decode. Al then finds a secret 5th installment in the Qwark vs Nefarious vidcomic series, one that wasn't supposed to have been released to the public. It shows that Qwark had previously hidden from Nefarious in an asteroid belt hideout, which is probably where he is now. Also of interest in the previous vidcomics is that Qwark actually turned Nefarious into a robot many years ago by accidentally throwing him off a ledge into machinery. Ratchet, Clank and Scrunch go to the hideout and confront Qwark, who finally kind of admits that he isn't as brave as he likes to pretend.
I could have died! Me, Captain Qwark! Imagine an entire galaxy with no more me! And for what cause? So, a few trillion people get turned into robots. Who am I to say who should or shouldn't be turned into a robot?
You're pathetic, Qwark. I can't believe I once looked up to you. Let's go, Clank.
The people of this galaxy need you, Qwark. They believe in you. You can give them hope. You have a chance to redeem yourself and become the hero you have always wanted to be.
I love this entire arc for Qwark. He started off at rock bottom after his pride got the better of him in Ratchet 1 and 2, only to make exactly the same mistakes again. Now he's back at rock bottom, and Ratchet and Clank have the chance to hammer home how everything needs to change for him. But for now, Qwark has to sit with that knowledge and let it stew for a bit. But hold on a second. Sasha says that the Starship Phoenix is under attack. Ratchet and Clank return to find it under siege by Nefarious' forces, so they fight their way to the bridge and save the rest of the Q-Force. Al says that he's finally been able to decode the data disk that Qwark found, which contains Nefarious' plans for the Biobliterator. Apparently it needs to recharge after every attack, and it's currently doing so on planet Koros, so Ratchet and Clank head there after glitching out a bit. Seriously, what's up with this glitch? Why does it happen? Clank manages to destroy the super weapon with a giant turret in one of his most badass moments in the series.
Agent Clank! What's going on here? What do you think you're doing?
After all those holofilms, there is one thing you should know by now. Do not mess with Agent Clank.
Unfortunately, Nefarious has secretly made a second one. Before you say anything, no, I don't think this second Biobliterator was on Metropolis. Otherwise, it makes even less sense that our heroes are surprised by it. It has to be that the news was exaggerated for effect. I mean, the obvious answer is that it was a writing oversight, but that's no fun. The heroes infiltrate Nefarious' last line of defense on planet Mylon, hoping to end his reign of terror for good. This boss battle is one of the best in the series. It's tough, epic, and even has a section where the Galactic Rangers help Ratchet and Clank push forward, as thanks for them saving their butts previously. After defeating Nefarious in 2-on-1 combat, he turns a new Biobliterator into a giant mech, and then Han Solo style, Captain Qwark arrives in his ship, finally choosing to become the hero he's always wanted to be. It's a great payoff, really satisfying. Ratchet and Clank climb into a hover ship and help him out, finally destroying the Biobliterator for good. Nefarious and Lawrence try to teleport away, but the mech self-destructs too quickly for them to act.
Oh, the humiliation! Defeated by squishes! Oh, I'll never live this down!
Warning. Reactor detonation in 60 seconds.
Lawrence, engage the teleporter.
Would you care to specify a destination, sir?
Who cares? Just get us out of here.
Time's up.
What? That wasn't even close to 60 seconds!
Bye-bye.
The story ends with the premiere of the new Secret Agent Clank movie, and pretty much every NPC from Ratchet 1, 2, and 3 are seated in the audience. You can tell that this was meant to be a capper of sorts for the PS2 era, even though it didn't turn out that way in the end. Sasha kisses Ratchet, showing that they are a romantic item, so good for them. Scrunch tries to do the same to Clank, but it doesn't go so well. After the credits, we see that Nefarious and Lawrence have ended up on an asteroid after being blown to Kingdom Come. Lawrence says that he's sure a new planet will come along in 5 or 10,000 years.
Now what?
I don't suppose you can play drums.
And that's that. As you can probably tell, Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal has by far the best story in the PS2 era. It's action-packed, fun, funny, and full of heart, with cutscenes that are genuinely moving. It's highly rewatchable, and combined with a highly replayable gameplay experience, you get something that was able to keep me sane for so many years. I can't even remember how much I've played it, but it's enough for me to comfortably call it my most replayed game ever, with Ratchet Deadlocked coming in a close second. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a dedicated video about that at some point, aren't I? But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed what you saw here, subscribe to the channel, have a wonderful day or night wherever or whenever you are, and stay tuned for more.
That was terrific.
Yeah, great. Change the channel.
But the man said to stay tuned.